Hello students, hope you all are fine and safe and sound at your home. This is your history lesson. Today we are going to read chapter 7, Akbar's Successors, Jahangir and Shah Jahan from Understanding History Book 2 for class 7. So we start our lesson. First of all, have a look on glossary. Successor. Successor is one that follows, especially one who succeeds to a throne, title, estate, or office. Acquisition. The attainment or acquisition of a position or rank or power. Grievance. A real or imagined cause for complaint. Coexistence, the state or fact of living or existing at the same time. Rebelled, resist authority, control, or convention. Treachery, behavior that deceives to someone. Feud, a prolonged and bitter quarrel or dispute. Safed, 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 Iran or Safed Persia, referred to as the Safavid Empire. Intellectual, relating to the intellect. Ascended, ascend, go up or climb. Ambassador, ambassador, highest rank of diplomatic. Representative, sent by one national government to another. Sanctions. Sanction can be used as a verb meaning to authorize or to penalize. Boost, help or encourage something to increase or improve. Oppressed, to burden with cruel or unjust impositions. Asthma. Asthma is a condition in which your airways narrow and smell and may produce extra mucus. Magnificent, extremely beautiful, elaborate or impressive. Fabulously, fabulously, extremely well, wonderfully. Revolt, an attempt to end the authority of a person or body by rebelling. Legendary, remarkable enough to be famous. Accomplishment, something that has been achieved successfully, immensely, to a great extent, extremely. Monument, a state, building, or other structure erected to commemorate a notable person or event. Pursued, to follow someone or something. Distinguished, very successful. Authoritative, authoritative and commanding great respect. Revenue, income, especially when of an organization and of a substantial nature. Territory, territory is land which is controlled by a particular country or rule. Or rule. Reign, hold royal office, rule as monarch. Acquisition, an asset or object bought or obtained. Prolonged, continuing for a long time. Pristine, in its original condition. Ethereal, extremely delicate and light in a way that seems not to be of this world. Opulent, rich in appearance. Stability, the quality, state, or degree of being stable. Phenomenal, remarkable, or exceptional. Treacherously, guilty of or characterized by betrayal of confidence. Arkham is a state in Myanmar. Tactics, an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. Now come to page number 47 from your book and start reading chapter 7 with me. Jahangir 1605 to 1627. Prince Saleem, the eldest of Akbar's sons, was named after the Saint Saleem Chishti of Sikri, with whose prayers and blessings Akbar became a father. Saleem was loved and cared for by his parents, and Akbar personally trained him in the art of kingship. He made sure that Salim's education started at the age of 4, and he was taught Persian, Turkish, Arabic, arithmetic, history, geography, and other sciences. His tutor Abdurrahim Khana was a genius and greatly influenced Prince Saleem. So, students, in the first paragraph, we learn about Prince Saleem. He was the eldest son of Akbar, and he was the blessing after the prayers of Saint Saleem Chishti of Sikri. Akbar brought Saleem very carefully. He educated him. He arranged a very skillful and genius teacher, and he taught him different languages of that era, like Persian, Turkish, Arabic, arithmetic, history, geography, and other sciences. So he brought up his son in a very nice manners, in a very artistic manners. At Akbar's death in 1605, Saleem succeeded to the Mughal throne, taking the title of Jahangir, which means world Caesar. At his accession, coins were struck in his name. Jahangir's most famous act was the setting up of a chain of justice between the Shah Buji of Agra fort and a stone pillar fixed on the banks of the river Yamuna. Any person who wished to voice his grievance could pull the chain and gain an audience with the emperor. Jahangir had inherited a strong and stable empire from his father Akbar, and he continued Akbar's policies of tolerance and coexistence among the various communities. When his son Prince Khosrow rebelled, he was dealt with firmly and his supporters were punished. Among these was the Sikh Guru Arjan, who was put to death Guru Arjan's punishment was for treachery and not because of his religion. Jahangir's achievement was to bring Bengal firmly under the rule of the Mughals, and the conquest of Mawar, which led to rest the constant feud with that Rajput kingdom. Kangra was also conquered, but Kandhar was lost to the Mughals forever when it was acquired by the Safavid rulers of Persia. So students, Nuruddin Muhammad Saleem, known by his imperial name Jahangir, was the fourth Mughal emperor who ruled from 1605 until his death in 1627. His imperial name means conqueror of the world, world conqueror or world Caesar. So at the time when he got the throne, he continued the policies of his father Akbar. And he also fixed a chain for the justice for the common people of his state. But when his son Prince Khusru rebelled, he was dealt with firmly and his supporters were punished. And among those persons, Sikh Guru Arjan was a person. Later on, he was put to death, and his punishment was not for the reason of his religion, but due to his behavior, due to his act of treachery. His punishment was for treachery, not because of his religion. Jahangir's achievement was to bring Bengal firmly under the rule of the Mughals, and the conquest of Mewar, which led to rest the constant feud with the Rajput kingdom. The Mughal Empire grew in artistic and cultural expression under Jahangir, who was aided by his queen Nur Jahan, whom he had married in 1611. She was an intelligent and capable queen who could understand the most difficult problems of the state and advised Jahangir. She lent beauty, splendor, and glory to the Mughal court by setting the fashions of the age, writing poetry, and designing jewelry and cotton and silk fabrics. Her father, Mirza Yas Beg, was an educated and intelligent Persian who was appointed as Diwan at Jahangir's court and given the title Itmaduddaulah. Under Nur Jahan, Persian influence dominated the cultural and intellectual activities of the court. Her brother Asif Khan was made the prime minister, and his daughter Mumtaz Mahal became the wife of Prince Khurram, who later ascended the throne as Shah Jahan. So, students, during the reign of Jahangir, Mughal Empire grew in artistic and cultural expression. Nurjah, who was the wife of Jahangir, also contributed a lot in the cultural and artistic development uh, of that era. She also brought Persian influence to the Mughal court. From 1622, as Jahangir's health declined, he began to leave the affairs of the state to Nur Jahan, and coins were also issued in her name. This was not liked by some of his nobles. According to some historians, Jahangir's dependence on Nur Jahan made him lazy and given to pleasure instead of attending to his government. The 22 years of Jahangir's rule saw an increase in the expenditures and the pomp and show at his court and among the nobility. The wealth and glory of the Mughal court were famous in Europe, and many Europeans visited the Mughal Empire. European ambassadors were now sent to the Mughal court. In 1615, the ambassador of King James I of England, Sir Thomas Roe, who was sent to get trade sanctions from the Mughals. He lived at the court and succeeded in obtaining a farman allowing the English to trade at Surat. He has left an interesting account of Jahangir's court. So he became careless in the matters of wealth and riches. Tuske Jahangiri, Jahangir's autobiography, Tuske Jahangiri, recounts his life and times in detail. He traveled the length and breadth of his empire and kept detailed records. His observations about people and places reveal an interesting side of his personality. The Mughal school of painting received a boost during his lifetime. He was a keen observer of natural life and the famous nature artist Mansoor lived at Jahangir's court. Jahangir was also interested in the laying out of gardens as he loved flowers and nature. So, students, Tuske Jahangiri or Jahangiri Nama is the autobiography of Mughal Emperor Nuruddin Muhammad Jahangir. Tuske Jahangiri is written in Persian and follows the tradition of his great grandfather Babur, who had written the Baburnama. Though Jahangir went a step further, and besides the history of his religion, he included reflection on art, politics, and also information about his family. He had the intelligence and ability to carry on the administration of his father Akbar and gave justice to the oppressed and needy in his kingdom. Jahangir suffered from asthma and died in 1627. He is buried at Shadra, Lahore in a mausoleum built by his beloved Queen Nur Jahan. Shah Jahan. Who was Shah Jahan? Shahabuddin Muhammad Khurram, better known by his original name Shah Jahan, was the fifth Mughal emperor of India and reigned from 1628 to 1658. Under his reign, the Mughal emperor reached the peak of its cultural glory. Jahangir's last days were marked by his sons fighting for the throne. Prince Khurram was in the Deccan when news of his father's death reached him. Immediately he reached Delhi, where Asif Khan, his father-in-law, had managed to secure the throne for him. All rivals to the throne were put to death. Nur Jahan retired from public life and her son-in-law Shahryar was imprisoned. Well educated and intelligent, Shah Jahan proved to be a capable ruler and came to be called the Magnificent. There was peace and prosperity in the empire, and the increased wealth resulted in some of the most beautiful and grand buildings in the subcontinent. Shah Jahan was also a proud ruler who was aware of his high status as the emperor of a large and fabulously rich empire. On coming to the throne, Shah Jahan had to face the revolt of the Bandela Rajputs, which he successfully put down. Khan Jahan Lodi, the Mughal governor of the Deccan, revolted next and Shah Jahan personally led an army to defeat him. Khan Jahan retreated and was killed fighting near Kalinjar in 1630. Khan Jahan retreated and was killed fighting near Kalinjar in 1630. The next year, 1631, was a sad one for Shah Jahan. His beloved wife Taj Mahal died in childbirth, and the empire mourned her passing away for a year. Mumtaz Mahal's beauty was legendary, and added to that were her accomplishments and goodness of character. Till the time of her death, she looked after orphans, gave immensely in charity, and was kind and considerate to all. Few marriages have resulted in so much happiness. The Taj Mahal is a fitting monument which reflects Shah Jahan's love and commitment to his queen. Deccan policy of Shah Jahan. Akbar had pursued a policy of bringing of northern and southern India under his rule, but he could not conquer all of the Deccan. Jahangir had carried on his father's policy, and Shah Jahan had distinguished himself in fighting against Malik Ambar of Ahmednagar. Hence, as emperor, Shah Jahan wished to complete the conquest of the Deccan. He took over Ahmednagar, Golconda, and Bajipur and returned to Agra in 1636, leaving behind Aurangzeb as governor of the Deccan. During the year 1653 to 1657, Aurangzeb introduced many reforms in the Deccan, including Tudor Mal's revenue settlement. As under Akbar and Jahangir, farmers were encouraged to enrich the land, and the government provided money and seeds to boost agriculture. The administration was made more efficient. However, Aurangzeb's successful campaigns against Golconda and Bajipur were stopped by Shah Jahan at Dara Shikoh's bidding. However, Aurangzeb's successful campaigns against Golconda and Bajipur were stopped by Shah Jahan at Dara Shikoh's bidding. So, students, the Deccan policy of Aurangzeb was very aggressive. The three powers in the Deccan with which he had to deal were the Marathas and the two Shia states of Bajipur and Golconda. Deccan policy of the Mughals during the reigns of Shah Jahan remained quite successful. He was a capable commander and understood the politics of the Deccan well. Loss of Kandhar. Kandhar had been lost to the Mughals during the time of Jahangir. Shah Jahan decided to bring the territory of his ancestors back into his control. The historian Abdul Majid Lahori says, ever since the beginning of his reign, the emperor's heart had been set upon the conquest of his house, and the key to the acquisition of Samarkand, the home and capital of his great ancestor Timur. Shah Jahan's repeated attempts to reconquer Kandhar failed by 1653, despite three campaigns under Aurangzeb and Dara Shikoh. The Mughals suffered a loss of prestige and spent 12 crores in money on the campaigns. So once the loss of Kandhar was seen as a major strategic loss for the Mughal Empire. Furthermore, the Mughals saw the defeat as a blow to the emperor's prestige, and Emperor Shah Jahan was determined to see the city returned to Mughal control. Then, to add to the glory of the Mughal Empire, Shah Jahan decided to bring Balkh and Badakhshan under his control. Balkh was attacked and captured, but the Uzbeks fought back and, after a prolonged struggle, managed to beat the Mughal forces back to Kabul. Balkh and Badakhshan were also lost, and the Mughals again lost heavily in men and money. The architectural achievements of Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan had been blessed with a keen sense of beauty and talent for architecture. His reign is known for his contribution to impressive buildings in the subcontinent, the most famous of which is the Taj Mahal in Agra, built in memory of Shah Jahan's beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. The Taj Mahal is considered one of the wonders of the world, made of pristine white marble and inlaid with semi precious stones. It is located on the banks of the river Yamuna and can be seen from the windows of the royal quarters in the Agra fort. The site is equally beautiful at dawn and in the light of the full moon, which gives it an ethereal, soft look. The construction of Taj Mahal involved artisans from Samarkand, Kandhar, Baghdad, and Shiraz, while local craftsmen from Delhi, Lahore, and Multan helped to build and decorate the Taj under the supervision of Ustad Isa. The Jamia Masjid of Delhi, considered the largest in India, the Moti Masjid and Masaman Burj of the Agra fort are other examples of impressive architecture. The tomb of Nizamuddin Aulia was built in pure white marble. Shah Jahan also laid the foundations of a new capital, Shah Jahan Abad, in Delhi. The Jamia Masjid in Thatta was also built by Shah Jahan and is a beautiful example of blending local craftsmanship with Mughal style. Besides these grand buildings, the Mughals also laid out beautiful gardens with wide lawns, walkways, flowing water channels, and fountains. The famous peacock throne added to the display of opulent magnificence during Shah Jahan's reign. It was taken away by the Persian invader Nadir Shah in 1739. Shah Jahan's reign is called the golden period of the Mughals as there was political stability, which allowed the people to prosper. The empire had expanded and gained favor with both its Hindu and Muslim subjects, whose prosperity from agriculture and trade reached phenomenal heights. Shah Jahan ruled firmly for 30 years and left behind a legacy of magnificence. However, he fell seriously ill in 1657, leading to a war of succession among his sons, the Shikoh, Murad, Shuja, and Aurangzeb. The last years of his life, 1652 to 1666, were spent in the Agra fort as a prisoner after Aurangzeb returned from the Deccan and, dealing successfully with his brothers, declared himself successor to the throne. So, students, we can say Shah Jahan is the best remembered for his architectural achievements. His reign is considered in the golden age of Mughal architecture, the best known of which is the Taj Mahal in Agra. War of Succession. War of Succession. With the news of Shah Jahan's illness in 1657, a fight for the throne broke out between his four sons, who were governors of different provinces. Dara Shikoh was governor of the Punjab, Aurangzeb was governor of the Deccan, Shah Shuja was governor of Bengal, and Murad was governor of Gujarat. Hearing of his father's illness, Shuja declared himself emperor and had coins struck in his name. Murad also sent off from Gujarat, but Aurangzeb waited and did not take any action. Tara Shikoh sent an army under his son Suleiman Shikoh and Raja Jai Singh, which defeated Shah Shuja at Bahadurgarh. Bahadurgarh in 1658. Jaswant Singh and Qasim Khan met Aurangzeb and Murad at Dharmat, but were defeated by them. Tara personally decided to meet Aurangzeb and Murad in battle, the Battle of Samargarh, that decided that issue of succession to the Mughal throne was fought on 29 May 1658 when Dara exchanged his wounded elephant for a horse. His soldiers, unable to see him, fled the battlefield. Later, Dara raised a large army but was defeated by Aurangzeb at Ajmer. Dara escaped to Sindh, but he was treacherously handed over to Aurangzeb in 1659. He was brought to Delhi and put to death. Murad was imprisoned and suffered a similar fate, while Shuja escaped to Aachen, where he was murdered by the Arkhanese ruler. Aurangzeb's superior tactics had won him the throne. As a historian Vincent Smith says, Aurangzeb proved himself to be by far the ablest of the princes in every phase of the contest. So, students, we can say after a long fight, after a long struggle, Aurangzeb was able to get the throne and he was the emperor after Shah Jahan. Questions. Question 1. Explain why Jahangir is called the Just. Answer. Jahangir, also known as Nuruddin Muhammad Saleem, was the eldest son of famous Akbar the Great. Jahangir's most famous act was the setting up of a chain of justice between the Shah Buji of Agra fort and the stone pillar fixed on the banks of the river Yamuna. Any person who wished to voice his grievance could pull the chain and gain an audience with the emperor. Question 2. Why was Kandhar lost to the Mughals? Answer. Jahangir's achievement was to bring Bengal firmly under the rule of the Mughals and the conquest of Mewar, which led to the constant feud with that Rajput kingdom. Kangra was also conquered, but Kandhar was lost to the Mughals forever when it was acquired by the Safi rulers of Persia. Question 3. What role did Empress Noor Jahan play during Jahangir's reign? Answer. Noor Jahan was an intelligent and capable queen who could understand the most difficult problems of the state and advised Jahangir. She lent beauty, splendor, and glory to the Mughal court by setting the fashions of the age, writing poetry and designing jewelry and cotton and silk fabrics. Under Noor Jahan, Persian influence dominated the cultural and intellectual activities of the court. From 1622, as Jahangir's health declined, he began to leave the affairs of the state to Noor Jahan, and coins were also issued in her name. This was not liked by some of his nobles. Question 4. Was Jahangir's reign stable and prosperous? 1. Explain your answer. Answer. Jahangir had inherited a strong and stable empire from his father Akbar Azam. At Akbar's death in 1605, Jahangir succeeded to the Mughal throne, taking the title of Jahangir, which means world Caesar. He continued Akbar's policies of tolerance and coexistence among the various communities. He was also famous for his love for art. The Mughal Empire grew in artistic and cultural expression under Jahangir, who was aided by his queen Noor Jahan, whom he had married in 1611. Besides wars and achievement, Jahangir was addicted to alcohol and drugs. Due to their excess usage, his health declined. He began to leave the affairs of the state to Noor Jahan. According to some historians, Jahangir's dependence on Noor Jahan made him lazy and given to pleasure instead of attending to his government. Question 5. How successful was Shah Jahan's Central Asian policy? Answer. Akbar had pursued a policy of bringing all of northern and southern India under his rule, but he could not conquer all of the Deccan. Jahangir had carried on his father's policy, and Shah Jahan had distinguished himself in fighting against Malik Ambar of Ahmednagar. Hence, as emperor, Shah Jahan wished to complete the conquest of the Deccan. During the year 1653 to 1657, including through the Mal's revenue settlement. As under Akbar and Jahangir, farmers were encouraged to enrich the land, and the government provided money and seeds to boost agriculture. The administration was made more efficient. However, Aurangzeb's successful campaigns against Golconda and Bajipur were stopped by Shah Jahan at Dara Shikoh's bidding. Question 7. Why did the war of succession take place among Shah Jahan's sons? Why was Aurangzeb successful? Answer. In Mughal Empire, there was no concept for continuing the legacy after the death of present king amongst their sons. When the news of Shah Jahan's illness in 1657, a fight for the throne broke out between his four sons who were governors of different provinces. Hearing of his father's illness, Shuja declared himself emperor and had coins struck in his name. Murad also set off from Gujarat, but Aurangzeb waited and did not take any action. Dara personally decided to meet Aurangzeb and Murad in battle. The Battle of Samagar that decided the issue of succession to the Mughal throne was fought on 29 May 1658. Dara was defeated by Aurangzeb at Ajmer. Later, Dara was brought to Delhi and put to death. Murad was imprisoned and suffered a similar fate, while Shuja escaped to Aachen where he was murdered by the Arkhanese ruler. Aurangzeb's superior tactics had won him the throne. Question 8. What do you think were Jahangir's and Shah Jahan's contributions to the society of their times? Answer. Jahangir's contributions. Jahangir's most famous act was the setting up of a chain of justice. Jahangir continued his father Akbar Azam policies of tolerance and coexistence among the various communities. The Mughal Empire grew in artistic and cultural expression under Jahangir, especially Mughal painting reached a high level of elegance and richness during his reign. Not only Jahangir was a keen observer of natural life but also interested in the laying out of gardens as he loved flowers and nature. Jahangir ruled the Mughal Empire for 22 years. His wife Nur Jahan was an intelligent and capable queen who could understand the most difficult problems of the state and advised Jahangir. Jahangir forbade the killing of animals for food on Thursday, Sunday, and on his birthday. He also strictly prohibited the use of tobacco and punished the users. Shah Jahan's contributions. Well educated and intelligent, Shah Jahan proved to be a capable ruler and came to be called the Magnificent. There was peace and prosperity in the empire, and the increased wealth resulted in some beautiful and grand buildings in the subcontinent. Shah Jahan had been blessed with a keen sense of beauty and talent for architecture. His reign is known for his contribution to impressive buildings in the subcontinent, the most famous of which is the Taj Mahal in Agra. The Jamia Masjid of Delhi, considered the largest in India, the Moti Masjid, the Musliman Burj of the Agra fort are other examples of impressive architecture. Shah Jahan also laid the foundations of a new capital, Shah Jahanabad in Delhi. The Jamia Masjid in Thatta was also built by Shah Jahan and is a beautiful example of blending local craftsmanship with Mughal style. Besides these grand buildings, the Mughals also laid out beautiful gardens. The famous peacock throne added to the display of great luxurious life during Shah Jahan's reign. Shah Jahan ruled firmly for 30 years and left behind a legacy of magnificence. The Mughal Empire under Shah Jahan enjoyed maximum peace and order. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.